My name's Ethan. I'm 21 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the workhorse of our family. We lived in this battered apartment on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where the wallpaper peels and the floorboards creak, like they're complaining about life too. It wasn't glamorous, but it was home. Or at least, it was supposed to be. My dad, Marcus, acted like I was some kind of second in command. Not a son, a built-in caretaker. Whenever something broke, needed scrubbing, or demanded attention, it wasn't his problem. It wasn't Lily's or Max's either. It was mine. Lily, my younger sister, floated through life like a butterfly, cheerful, careless, and conveniently absent whenever the dishes piled up or the laundry threatened to swallow the hallway. Max, our 15-year-old brother, was worse. His life revolved around video games, energy drinks, and leaving half-eaten food all over the living room like some kind of twisted breadcrumb trail. Meanwhile, there was me, working a full-time warehouse job that chewed up my back and spit me out every evening, only to come home to a house that needed more from me than my boss ever did. It had been like this for years. At first, I thought if I just worked harder, if I just proved myself enough, maybe my dad would notice. Maybe he'd shoulder the load or, crazy thought, make Lily and Max pick up a broom once in a while. Spoiler alert, he didn't. Instead, every time I dared to question the imbalance, Marcus would hit me with the same tired line. You're the oldest. You should set an example. An example of what exactly? Breaking your back for people who don't even look up from their phones. I knew something had to give. I just didn't realize how close I was to breaking until that Thursday night. That Thursday started like any other, bone-tired, overworked, and dreading the mess I'd find when I got home. 9 hours on my feet, hauling crates twice my size, and all I wanted was a chair, a hot meal, and 5 minutes when no one needed anything from me. Just 5 damn minutes. But the moment I pushed open the front door, the smell hit me. Old food, dirty socks, and that unmistakable staleness that happens when no one lifts a finger for days. The TV was blaring some mindless show. Max was slouched on the couch, controller in hand, a half-eaten pizza slice balanced on the armrest, like a trophy. Lily wasn't far behind, scrolling on her phone, completely oblivious to the disaster zone around her. And Marcus? Sitting at the kitchen table, tapping away on his laptop, a dirty coffee cup just inches from falling off the edge. It took everything in me to not scream. I dropped my keys on the counter and was halfway to my room when his voice stopped me cold. Ethan, clean up the kitchen, will you? Your brother and sister have had a long day. I turned around so slowly you'd think I was underwater. My brother and sister? I repeated, trying not to laugh or explode. You mean the ones currently living their best lives while I work my arse off to keep this place from turning into a landfill? Marcus sighed, like I was the one exhausting him. Don't start. You're older, you should be helping out without complaining. That was it. That was the match tossed onto the gasoline. I work full-time, Dad, I snapped. I pay for my own gas, my own phone, and half the groceries. Lily and Max don't even do their own laundry. But yeah, sure, let's pretend I'm the problem here. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, that smug expression he always wore when he thought he was being reasonable. Living here, rent-free, means pulling your weight, Ethan. You should be grateful. Grateful that I got to clock out of one job just to come home and start another. Grateful that my hard work got me nothing but a bigger pile of dishes and 2 spoiled siblings. I clenched my fists so hard my nails bit into my palms. No, I said, my voice low but steady. Not this time. I'm done. His face twisted in confusion, like he couldn't even comprehend what I was saying, but I meant it. For the first time in my life, I wasn't bluffing. I was done being the unpaid janitor of this crumbling household, And whether Marcus liked it or not, I was about to prove it. I don't even remember grabbing my keys. 1 minute, I was standing there, fists clenched, facing Marcus across the cracked kitchen tiles. The next, I was walking down the broken sidewalk, the cold night air cutting into my skin like tiny knives. The world outside felt bigger somehow, louder, like I'd been underwater for years and was finally surfacing, gasping for something real. I didn't have a plan. Not really, I just knew I couldn't stay another night in that apartment. I got into my beat-up Civic, the one I'd spent 2 years saving for while Lily and Max got birthday trips and shiny new phones, and sat there for a minute, letting my forehead rest against the steering wheel. My hands were shaking, a cocktail of rage, exhaustion, and something else, freedom maybe, humming through my veins. The apartment lights still glowed behind me. Through the window I could see Max, still gaming, Lily still scrolling, Marcus still typing like the world wasn't falling apart 3 feet away. None of them had come after me. None of them even looked up. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. I put the car in drive and pulled out of the lot without looking back. For the first time in a long time, I was driving towards something, even if I had no idea what it was yet. The city at night has a way of swallowing you whole. I drove aimlessly, letting the neon signs and empty sidewalks blur past me. Gas station lights, closed-up diners, rows of dark houses with porch lights flickering like half-hearted stars. It was comforting in a weird way, being invisible, being free. Eventually, I pulled into a 24-hour diner, the kind of place where no one cares if you sit for hours nursing a single coffee. I slid into a cracked vinyl booth and stared at the greasy menu without seeing it. My phone buzzed on the table, rattling against the fake wood. Dad, come back. Stop being dramatic. Max, bro, seriously? We need you here. The trash is piling up. Lily, you're being selfish. We miss you. I let the messages pile up like the garbage they never bothered to take out. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about the work I wasn't doing for them anymore. It was almost funny. Almost. I scrolled through rental listings between sips of burnt coffee, $650 for a single room above a laundromat, $720 for a basement studio with minor mold issues, $800 for a shoebox apartment with great city access translation wedged between 2 dive bars. It wasn't ideal, none of it was. But it was better than being their live-in servant. I picked the least awful option, the $720 basement studio. I called the number on the ad before I could overthink it. An older woman with a smoker's voice answered. After 5 minutes of awkward negotiating, the place was mine, at least for the next 6 months. Deposit due tomorrow. Keys ready. Bring cash. Simple, brutal, free. The next day felt like wading through wet cement. I snuck back to the apartment around noon, praying no one would be home. Luck was finally on my side. The place was dead silent, just the low hum of the fridge and the familiar stench of rotting takeout containers. Packing took less than an hour. Funny how little you actually own when you've spent your life working for other people's comfort. A duffel bag of clothes, my worn-out toolbox, the second-hand laptop I'd saved for, a few framed photos I couldn't quite leave behind, even if I wanted to. I didn't leave a note. I didn't owe them that. As I lugged the bag out to my car, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Marcus. Dad, you're making a mistake. Family's all you've got. I almost laughed. If family was all I had, what did it say that they hadn't even noticed me disappearing 1 load of laundry at a time? I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and drove off. The new place wasn't much. A concrete box with a window so small it barely qualified, a mattress on the floor, a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a prison. But it was mine. No one telling me when to clean. No one shouting orders the second I walked through the door. No Lily flitting around like a princess. No Max whining about how unfair life was from behind his game console. No Marcus sitting in judgment over a son he couldn't even bother getting to know. Just me, just the hum of my own life finally beginning. The first night, I sat cross-legged on the floor, eating cheap microwave ramen and listening to the radiator clang like a dying robot. I had $30 to my name until next payday. My hands were raw from moving, my back ached, and my stomach twisted with the kind of fear that only comes when you realize you're really, truly alone. And yet, for the first time in years, I slept like a rock. No shouting, no guilt, no shame, just the quiet, stubborn truth of it. I had walked away. And somehow, against every lie they ever fed me about how much I needed them, I was still standing. It started small, a missed call here, a voicemail there, texts that were easy enough to ignore at first. I told myself they would stop eventually, that they'd realize I wasn't coming back to pick up after them, like some unpaid janitor. But if anything, the silence seemed to scare them. By day 3, the messages were pouring in faster than I could clear them. Dad, Ethan, come on, it's not the same without you. Lily, you don't have to do everything, but we need you. Please. Max, bro, the trash smells like death. We're dying over here, lol. That last one almost made me laugh. Almost. I spent my evenings in the tiny apartment, lying on the floor next to the mattress, phone face down, pretending their voices couldn't reach me through the cracked walls, and the space heater buzzing like an angry bee. I cooked simple meals, went to work, came home, watched bad TV on my laptop until the screen blurred into meaningless light. Freedom didn't always feel glorious. Sometimes it just felt quiet and heavy. But even so, it was better than the weight of being invisible in my own family. By the end of the week, desperation started leaking through their texts. Dad, you're acting selfish, Ethan. We're family. We look out for each other. Lily, I don't even know how to run the washing machine. Please come home just for a little bit. Max, seriously, bro. Dad's losing it. Lily cried last night. You're really just going to leave us? It would have been easier if they were angry, if they called me names and wrote me off. But this fake concern, this sudden desperate we need you act, it was like someone digging nails into a half-healed wound. Not because they missed me, because they missed what I did for them. It was the kind of manipulation that looked like love if you squinted hard enough. And I'd spent too many years squinting. The tipping point came on a Wednesday night. I was just getting back from my shift, a bag of groceries slung over one shoulder, when my phone started vibrating so hard it nearly jumped off the counter. 5 missed calls from Marcus, 2 voicemails from Lily, a string of texts from Max, and then a new voicemail, the one that made me freeze with my hand halfway to putting away the milk. Dad, voice low. Serious, Ethan, we need you to come home. I'm not kidding. I've been feeling sick, really sick. The house is a mess. Max and Lily are overwhelmed. This family is falling apart without you. You're tearing us apart by staying away. Please, you don't have to stay forever. Just help us get back on our feet. Then you can leave again if you want. We just need you now. Don't abandon us. Abandon. Funny choice of word. As if they hadn't abandoned me every single day inside that crumbling apartment. Every chore dumped on my back. Every birthday forgotten under piles of dirty laundry. Every night I came home exhausted, just to be treated like a ghost with cleaning supplies. Now that their comfort was gone, suddenly I mattered. I stared at the ceiling for hours that night, the radiator banging like some broken heartbeat. Part of me ached to give in. The part that had been trained since birth to think other people's needs always came first. But another part of me, the part I had finally started listening to, whispered something different. You don't owe them your life just because they forgot how to live without you. Freedom wasn't supposed to be easy, it was supposed to be worth it. The next morning, I decided to answer. Not by text. Not with a call they could twist into a guilt trip. I drove. Not to our old apartment, but to a nearby cafe, neutral ground. I texted Marcus, meet me here in 30 minutes. Alone. I sipped burnt coffee while I waited, heart hammering against my ribs. I half expected him not to come, or worse, to bring Lily and Max with him, like backup. But when he finally walked in, it was just him, same old Marcus, same tired leather jacket, same pinched expression, like he was the one doing me a favour just by showing up. He slid into the booth across from me without saying a word. I let the silence stretch between us until even the cheap diner music couldn't cover it. Finally, he spoke. You've made your point, Ethan, he said, voice tight, but you're punishing everyone for your pride. Don't you think it's time to come home? Home. Another funny word. I leaned forward, resting my arms on the table. I'm not coming back, I said, calm and steady. You didn't miss me, Dad. You missed the free labour, the convenience. You missed someone covering for all the things you didn't want to deal with. He bristled, opening his mouth to protest, but I held up a hand. You didn't call me when I was pulling double shifts to keep the lights on. You didn't check in when I missed meals to pay for groceries. You didn't notice when I stopped being your son and started being your crutch. He stared at me, stunned. Maybe for the first time he really heard me. I'm not angry, I added, surprising myself with the honesty. I'm just done. Marcus sat there, eyes clouded with something halfway between anger and realization. He didn't apologize. I didn't expect him to. Instead, he muttered, You're making a mistake. You're going to regret this when you're older. I smiled, not bitter, not mocking, just tired. Maybe, I said. But at least it'll be my mistake. I dropped a few crumpled bills on the table to cover my coffee and stood up. Marcus didn't follow. He didn't even look at me as I walked out. And as the diner door swung shut behind me, I realized something simple and terrifying and beautiful all at once. I didn't belong to them anymore. I belonged to myself. The strange thing about breaking away from the people you thought you owed everything to, it's not loud, it's not cinematic. It's a quiet, slow unraveling, like untangling yourself from a knot you never realized you were tied into. After that diner meeting, Marcus didn't call again. No angry texts, no guilt-tripping voicemails, no frantic messages from Lily or Max begging me to reconsider. The silence was almost unsettling, like standing in a house right after a storm has torn the roof off. You're still there, but nothing feels the same. At first, I kept expecting something dramatic. A letter, a surprise visit, an apology. None of it came. And slowly, quietly, the idea sank in. They didn't want me. They wanted what I did for them. Without that, there was no reason left to chase me. I spent the next few weeks rebuilding pieces of myself I didn't even realize I had lost. Little things at first. Buying a cheap second-hand couch from a guy down the street. Learning how to cook something besides instant ramen. Turns out I make a mean chili. Decorating the sad concrete walls of my studio with posters and photos, and anything that made it feel less like a storage closet and more like a life. I even started running again. Nothing crazy, just a few laps around the block every morning before work. The first time I managed a full mile without feeling like I was going to die, I stood in the middle of the cracked sidewalk, sweaty and gasping, and laughed. Because for once, the only weight I was carrying was my own. Not to say it was easy. Some nights were brutal. The loneliness hit like a punch when the sun went down and the city lights flickered on outside my tiny window. The doubts crept in, whispering that maybe Marcus was right, that I would wake up someday and realize I'd made a mistake, walking away from the only people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. But then I'd remember what love looked like in that apartment. Dishes piled up until the sink overflowed, trash bags stacked in the hallway, birthdays forgotten, sacrifices ignored. A lifetime of being needed, but never seen. If that was love, maybe I was better off without it. The messages didn't stay silent forever. About a month after I left, I got a string of new ones. Lily, hey, just wondering if you wanted to come over for dinner sometime. No pressure. Just we miss you. Max, yo dude, Dad's chill now. You should come hang. We cleaned the place. Kinda. Dad, your brother and sister are trying. You should give them another chance. Don't be stubborn. I stared at the screen for a long time, turning the words over and over like smooth stones in my mind. Maybe they meant it. Maybe Lily and Max were trying. Maybe Marcus had actually cleaned a dish without barking orders at someone. But here's the thing about walking away from a fire. You don't go back to see if the ashes are still hot. You just keep walking. I didn't answer. Not out of spite. Not because I hated them. Because I loved myself enough now to know that some cycles aren't worth stepping back into. They would be fine. Or they wouldn't. Either way, it wasn't my job to fix them anymore. Months passed. Seasons changed. I moved to a slightly better apartment, one with actual sunlight and floors that didn't sound like they were plotting my death. I got promoted at work, warehouse supervisor, decent pay, benefits, a reason to stand a little taller when I introduced myself. I even made some new friends, people who didn't see me as a utility belt with legs, but as a person worth knowing just because. Life wasn't perfect. There were still nights I missed the idea of family more than the reality. Still moments where a song or a smell or a stupid TV commercial would sucker punch me with nostalgia for a home that had never really been safe. But then I'd come back to myself, to this messy, loud, beautiful life I was finally building with my own two hands. And I would remember, family isn't who needs you. Family is who chooses you. And I chose me. One rainy afternoon, I found an old photo tucked into the bottom of a moving box, one I hadn't bothered unpacking until then. It was from years ago. A birthday party. Me, Lily, Max, and Marcus crowded around a crooked cake with Happy 16th Ethan scrawled across it in rushed icing. But even then, even smiling for the camera, I could see it in my own eyes. Tired, outnumbered, already halfway gone, I set the photo down, not out of bitterness, out of respect for the boy who had survived long enough to grow into the man now standing over him. I didn't need to hate my past to leave it behind. I just needed to honor the part of me that had carried all that weight until he finally learned how to put it down. As the rain hammered against the windows and the city buzzed below, I made myself a promise. No more shrinking. No more breaking myself into pieces to fit other people's expectations. From now on, I'd carry only what was mine. And for the first time in my life, that was enough. Story 2. When I married Julia, I knew she came as a package deal. her and her little girl, Lila. She was 5 years old when we met, this tiny thing with an untamable mop of hair and a grin so wide it felt like sunlight. I still remember the first time I saw her, running circles around a worn-out park bench while Julia tried, and failed, to keep up. Somehow, watching them felt like looking into my own future, one I didn't even know I was hoping for. Julia had been clear from day one. Lila's biological dad, Eric, was unreliable at best. He popped in on birthdays with cheap dolls and broken promises, then vanished for months at a time. Julia warned me not to expect much from him, or from Lila's loyalty, for that matter. She wanted her daughter to have some kind of relationship with her father, even if it was messy. What I didn't expect was how deeply Lila would carve her way into my heart. It wasn't a hallmark moment. It took time, late-night fevers, scraped knees from failed bike lessons, tearful rehearsals for school plays. But somewhere between helping her build a volcano for science fair and holding her hand through her first heartbreak, I became dad. Not stepdad, just dad. Eric stayed in the background, a ghost who floated in and out, offering up wild promises. Next summer we'll go to Disneyland. Next Christmas you'll get that puppy you always wanted. Lies, all of them. And every time those lies collapsed, I was the one picking up the broken pieces. By the time Lila hit college age, she was calling me first about everything. Class schedules, job interviews, roommate drama. I helped with her tuition. I helped her furnish her first apartment. Hell, when she needed an extra few $100 for textbooks, it wasn't even a question. I just wired it over. I never did it because I wanted anything in return. Not really. Maybe I hoped, deep down, that someday it would be obvious to everyone that I had been the real constant, that I mattered. So when Lila called to tell us she was engaged to her boyfriend Jason, I was thrilled. This is it, I thought. This is the moment. Walking her down the aisle, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. A culmination of 2 decades of scraped knees, late-night talks, and thanks, Dad whispered at graduations and moving days. I tried not to build it up too much in my head. Still, when the invitation arrived, my heart thudded with excitement. Until I opened it, my name was there, buried deep in the list of guests. No special acknowledgement, no honoured role, no mention at all. It stung, but I told myself, maybe there was a mistake, maybe the roles weren't finalised yet. When I finally worked up the courage to ask Lila about it, she said it so casually I thought I must have misheard. Eric's walking me down the aisle, Dad. I've always wanted it to be him. He's my biological father, you know. I wish I could tell you I handled it with grace. I didn't. I froze. I smiled. I said, "Of course, sweetie." Then I hung up and sat there in my office, staring at the wall until the sun went down. All the moments, all the sacrifices, all the times I showed up when he didn't. They were invisible, erased. The wedding day came faster than I wanted. I still showed up, wearing a tailored navy suit that had cost more than my first car. I sat near the back, smiling politely, clapping at the right moments, laughing when I was supposed to. I watched Eric, the man who had let Lila down 1,000 times, beam as he walked her toward Jason. Not once did her eyes search the crowd for mine. During the speeches, I sat waiting for even a passing mention. Thanks to Tom, who raised me when my real dad couldn't be bothered. Something, anything, nothing came. I left after the cake was cut, slipping out while everyone else was drunk on champagne and nostalgia. Nobody noticed. Nobody ever notices when a supporting character exits the stage. In the days that followed, I tried to tell myself it didn't matter, that she was happy and that was the point. But something inside me had shifted. A cord had snapped, and I wasn't sure it could be tied back together. A week later, Lila called me, chipper and breezy as if nothing had happened. She gushed about their honeymoon, beach resorts, candlelit dinners, a surprise yacht tour. I said, and wow, in all the right places, biting down on the bitterness that tried to leak out. Then came the kicker. "Dad," she said, the word twisting in my chest. "We ran into some unexpected expenses on the trip. Could you help cover it? Just until Jason gets his next paycheck." There it was. The expectation, the reflexive assumption that I would, of course, rescue her. But something had hardened inside me. "I'm sorry, Lila," I said. "I can't help you this time." There was a long, stunned silence on the line. "But you've always helped before," she said, her voice small, like a child again. "Maybe you should ask Eric," I replied, keeping my voice even. "After all, he's your real dad, right?" The call ended quickly after that. No screaming, no crying, just a cold, heavy silence. Julia wasn't happy when she found out. She accused me of being vindictive, of punishing Lila for an emotional decision she had every right to make. Maybe she was right. Or maybe, just maybe, after 20 years, I had finally realized something brutal but necessary. You can't force someone to value what they don't see. And I was done being invisible. 3 months passed after the wedding. And if you asked me how many times I heard from Lila in that stretch, the answer would be 0. At first, the silence stung more than I wanted to admit. I checked my phone way more often than I should have, half hoping she'd reach out just to, I don't know, talk, not ask for anything, not pretend nothing had happened, just talk. But no, nothing. Julia, on the other hand, couldn't leave it alone. She'd bring up Lila over dinner like it was a casual conversation starter, but every word was loaded. "You know they're struggling, right?" she said one evening, spearing her salad a little too aggressively. I just kept chewing. "Jason lost his job," she added, voice soft like she was reporting a death. "They can barely make rent." Lila's stressed out of her mind. I set my fork down, wiped my mouth, and finally looked her in the eye. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said. And I meant it. I didn't want her suffering. I never did. But there was a wide, gaping canyon now between wanting her to be okay and rushing in to fix it for her. Julia's face tightened, like she was holding back words she knew would set me off. "Don't you think maybe we should help?" she tried, voice almost breaking. "She's our daughter, Tom. That word. Our. It hit differently now." "No, Julia," I said, my voice calm but final. "She's Eric's daughter when it matters." She made that clear. The air between us turned cold enough to freeze. Julia gathered her plate, walked it to the sink, and didn't say another word that night. About a week later, I got a text. Not from Lila, from Jason. "Hey Tom, can we meet up? Need to talk." I almost deleted it without answering, but curiosity got the better of me. We met at a coffee shop downtown, the kind with exposed brick walls and overpriced muffins. Jason was already there when I arrived, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Thanks for coming," he said, voice low, almost embarrassed. I didn't say anything, just sat down and waited. "So, things have been rough," he started, fumbling with his coffee cup. "I lost my job a couple months back. Savings are gone, rent's overdue, we might get kicked out." I just nodded. Let him keep going. "Lila's. She's really stressed, man. We didn't want to ask, but we were hoping maybe you could loan us some money, just enough to get back on our feet." I leaned back in my chair, watching him. He wasn't cocky. He wasn't entitled. He was desperate, but desperation didn't change the truth. "Did you ask Eric?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Jason blinked, thrown off. No, we thought. Well, you've always been the one to. He trailed off, realizing mid-sentence just how bad that sounded. Exactly, I said quietly. I've always been the one, until it wasn't convenient anymore. Jason opened his mouth, probably to argue, but I cut him off. I'm not angry, I said. And to my own surprise, it was true. The anger had burned itself out months ago. What was left was colder, clearer. I just can't do it anymore. I'm not your safety net, not hers, not anyone's. I stood up, grabbed my coat. I wish you both luck, I said. And I meant it. But I didn't offer money. I didn't offer anything. When I got home, Julia was waiting like a storm cloud ready to break. Did you help them? She asked immediately, skipping any kind of hello. I shook my head. No, I didn't. The silence that fell between us felt louder than any shouting match could have been. From that night on, it was like we became roommates instead of partners. Meals eaten in silence. Nights spent on opposite sides of the bed. Casual small talk covering the giant rift we both pretended not to see. The house felt colder, emptier, even though nothing visible had changed. And through it all, one thought kept circling my mind like a buzzard over a carcass. Maybe I had finally stopped being the fool who kept pouring into a cup with a hole in the bottom. The next bit of news didn't come from Lila or Jason directly. It came through Julia, tossed out casually over breakfast like she was commenting on the weather. They got evicted, she said, not looking up from her coffee. I just nodded. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want them. Apparently, they were crashing at Jason's mum's place now. 2 grown adults crammed into a tiny spare room, trying to pretend their lives weren't unraveling. Part of me, the old me, would have felt guilty, would have wanted to swoop in and fix it all. But the man sitting there that morning? He just felt tired of being the just in case, tired of being invisible until there was a bill to pay or a problem to solve, tired of being the one holding up a world that wouldn't even notice if he disappeared. 6 months after the wedding, the world felt different. Not just because of Lila or Jason or the endless Cold War between Julia and me. Because of me, I wasn't the same man anymore, and for the first time in a long time, that didn't scare me. I started picking up old hobbies I hadn't touched in years, woodworking, fishing, the kinds of things I used to love before every spare moment went into someone else's fire drill. I spent more weekends with friends, took long drives without explaining to anyone where I was going. It was strange at first, having my own life again. Stranger still, that it felt good. The guilt that used to eat at me? It was quieter now, almost gone, but life, of course, wasn't done testing me. One evening, Julia brought it up again. We were sitting at opposite ends of the couch, the TV playing something neither of us was really watching. Lila and Jason are still living with his mum, she said. It's not going well. She's miserable. I didn't say anything, just waited. She reached out to Eric again, Julia continued, asked him for help finding a new place. That made me snort without meaning to. Let me guess, I said. He's working on it. Julia nodded, her face a complicated knot of sadness and anger. Eric's been working on it Lila's whole life. Broken promises wrapped up in shiny paper, delivered with a smile. Some things never change. A few days later, Lila herself reached out. Not by phone, not even by text. A simple email, "Hey Dad, I'd like to meet. If you're willing. No asking for money this time. No guilt trips. Just that. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at an old park downtown, the same one where I first saw her chasing butterflies at 5 years old. When I arrived, she was already sitting on a bench, arms wrapped around herself like she was holding herself together. When she saw me, she stood up and gave me a hug. Stiff, awkward, like hugging a stranger. We sat down. For a minute, neither of us spoke, just the sound of the wind threading through the trees. Finally, she broke the silence. "I'm sorry," she said, "for everything. For the wedding, for hurting you." I didn't say anything. I just waited. "I didn't realize until afterward how much it mattered," she continued, voice shaking. "How much you mattered." I kept my voice calm when I finally spoke. "You didn't just hurt me at the wedding, Lila," I said. "You erased me, like I was never there at all." She flinched. I saw it. And then when things got hard, I added, "You didn't reach out because you missed me. You reached out because you needed me." Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't rush to comfort her. Not because I wanted to punish her, because it wasn't my job anymore. "I know," she whispered. I thought if I said sorry, it would fix it." I shook my head slowly. "Some things don't go back to the way they were," I said. "Sometimes sorry just means you understand why someone isn't coming back." We sat there for a while after that, talking about small things. Her new job search, Jason trying to find steady work. None of it changed the fact that something between us was broken, not smashed in anger, not torn in some dramatic fight, just worn out. Like a rope that's frayed over too many years of pulling in opposite directions. After that meeting, we didn't really keep in touch. No angry blow-ups. No blocking on social media. Just a slow, quiet fading. And honestly, that was okay. Some relationships don't end with explosions. They end with silence and peace. Julia, though, she never forgave me. Not really. She said she understood. Said she got it after all the therapy and late-night talks. But something between us had died too. We shared a house for almost another year, like two ghosts haunting the same hollow shell, until one day I came home and found a letter on the kitchen counter. "I can't do this anymore. I need something you can't give me. No big scene. No lawyers banging down the door. Just over, like pulling a bandage off a wound you already know won't heal right." I packed my things the next day. Found a small apartment not far from town. Simple, quiet, mine. It's been almost 2 years now. Sometimes I wonder if I could have done things differently. Maybe if I had been softer. Maybe if I had swallowed my pride one more time. Maybe. But when I look at the life I have now, the peace, the freedom, the clarity, I realize something. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop chasing the people who made it clear they don't want to be caught. Sometimes letting go isn't giving up. It's finally choosing yourself. And for once, I'm okay with that. Story 3, I pulled into the parking lot of DeLuca's right at 7 p.m. sharp, the way I always do. Never early enough to be annoying, never late enough to be rude. But tonight, something immediately felt off. No familiar cars, no sound of loud cousins laughing near the dumpsters, sneaking cigarettes like nobody knew. Just a dead silence broken only by the hum of the streetlights. Double-checking the group text Mum had sent 2 weeks ago didn't help. Friday, 7:00 p.m, DeLuca's. Can't wait, Mum. It was Friday. It was 7:00 p.m. I was here. I walked inside, cold air and the faint clink of glasses hitting me. The main dining area buzzed with normal Friday energy. But the private event room, the one I'd reserved with a hefty deposit, was locked up, dark as a tomb. "Can I help you, sir?" the hostess asked without even lifting her eyes from her screen. "Yeah." The Callahan party? Private room?" She scanned her list, squinting. "Oh, that was yesterday." I blinked. "Hard. No, it's today." I paid the deposit, booked it. She tilted her head like I was an interesting bug, 16 guests, big chocolate cake, place cards. Yeah, that was Thursday night. I remember because your mum brought a gluten-free thing for her sister. It felt like someone had knocked the air out of me. I even laughed. A dry, ugly thing that didn't even reach my chest. No, I'm not confused, I said. She shifted awkwardly. Maybe you want to call them. I didn't answer. I was already tapping Mum's number. The familiar routine of disappointment, almost muscle memory by now. 2 rings. Then her voice, sweet and casual, like nothing was wrong. Hey, honey, everything okay? Where is everyone? There was a tiny pause, a beat. And then she gave that airy little laugh she always used to smooth things over when she knew she was busted but didn't want to own it. Oh, sweetie, it was yesterday. We figured you couldn't make it. But don't worry, we'll bring you leftovers. Leftovers. I didn't even bother responding, just ended the call mid-sentence. No one tried to call me back. No texts from Mum. Not from my sister, Megan. Nobody. Except one, about 20 minutes later. Megan, Brew, you missed it, don't worry. We saved you a bread roll. I sat there in the driver's seat for a long time, my frozen fingers gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from dissolving, staring through the windshield, seeing nothing but the reflection of a man who should have known better. They didn't forget. They chose not to tell me. It should have been the worst part, the family reunion I paid for happening without me, but it was just the final rotting cherry on top of a 5-year-long garbage sundae. Growing up, it was always Megan first. She was the bright one, the sensitive one, the one who just needed a little more help to reach her potential. Me? I was the independent one, which, in my family, was just code for we don't have to care about you because you'll survive anyway. When I landed my first real job after college, I called Mom, practically vibrating with excitement. Her first words? Great, now you can help Megan with her rent. And that was just the beginning. 1 month of rent turned into a year of rent, then groceries, then Megan's dental surgery, then the down payment for her used Honda, then tuition for her nursing program, which she dropped after 1 semester. No refund, no apology. Whenever I tried to set a boundary, even gently, the response was instant and brutal. Stop keeping score. We're family. You're doing better than Megan. Why are you being petty? Petty, that's what they called it. Petty when I pointed out that I was bleeding money for a sister who posted Instagram stories showing off new shoes and boozy brunches. The night that really cemented everything was 2 years ago. I had just sent $600 to cover Megan's emergency vet bill. Later that same night, she posted a selfie, new acrylic nails, designer heels, some guy's arm slung over her shoulders, champagne in hand. I showed Mum. She didn't even blink. You boys always get so weird about money. Weird. It wasn't just the money, though. It was everything. Covering their property tax when Dad forgot and the house almost went into foreclosure. Paying for Mum's surprise birthday cruise when she couldn't ask Dad to do something nice for once. Picking up groceries every time someone had a bad knee or a migraine or just didn't feel like adulting that week. But the worst moment, it wasn't a bill. It was a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. 6 months ago, I was staying at my parents' house. Megan had overdrafted her account again $1,200 time, and I had bailed her out. I went downstairs late at night for some water and heard their voices carrying from the living room. Megan, he's so obsessed with acting like the martyr. It's pathetic. Mom, I know. He thinks he's saving us or something. Let him. He's not getting married anytime soon anyway. Might as well make himself useful. Dad, laughing. If he disappeared tomorrow, I wouldn't even notice. I stood frozen at the stairs, holding the empty glass like it was the only anchor keeping me from floating away. The next morning, pancakes were served like nothing had happened. Smiles all around. Fake as plastic flowers. I didn't bring it up. I didn't scream or demand apologies. I just stopped sending money for a while. 2 weeks later, I got the guilt trip texts, then the calls. Megan's behind on rent again. You know she's struggling. Why are you being so cold? When I finally said, I can't keep doing this, Mum's voice went sharp and mean. If you're going to punish us for raising you, maybe we shouldn't have bothered. That one cut deeper than I ever admitted. So I sent the money. Again. And now, standing alone in a parking lot outside a locked restaurant, the truth settled in for good. They never wanted me. Just my wallet. They didn't forget about me. They didn't get confused. They made a conscious decision. They gathered everyone they loved in one place and made sure I wasn't part of it. And tomorrow, I would make my own choice. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't even going to explain. Tomorrow, they'd find out exactly what happens when you mistake someone's kindness for weakness. Tomorrow, it would be my turn. The next morning, I wasn't tired. I hadn't slept, but there was no fog, no dragging weight behind my eyes. I was awake in a way I hadn't been in years. At 9:00 am sharp, I sent a message in the family group chat. Me, come to Mom's tonight. 7 p.m. I have something for everyone. Not a single person asked what it was. Of course they didn't. They never asked anything when it came to me. By 6:58 p.m, I was pulling into my parents' driveway. Their lights were on. Megan's car was parked crooked at the curb. Dad's pickup was half on the lawn. Business as usual. I took a deep breath, grabbed the envelope off the passenger seat, and went inside. There they were, gathered in the living room like they were hosting some kind of intervention. Mum was fussing with the throw pillows, like tidying the battlefield before the bombs drop. Megan was scrolling on her phone, fake concern already plastered across her face. Dad was slouched in his recliner, beer in hand, pretending not to care. Mom spotted me first. "Hi, honey," she said, smiling like everything was fine. "We weren't sure if you were still upset." Still upset, like it had been a minor scheduling mix-up, like I wasn't standing there, the ghost at the feast I paid for. Megan looked up, flipping her hair off her shoulder. "You know we didn't do it to hurt you," she said, voice syrupy sweet. "It was just easier for everyone to come Thursday. Most of us have lives, you know." She actually said that, straight-faced. I didn't respond, just walked to the coffee table and dropped the envelope onto it. "What's this?" Mum asked, eyeing it like it might explode. "A bill," I said, simply sitting down across from them. Dad scoffed. "A bill? For what?" "For the reunion dinner," I said, keeping my voice even. "The one you all enjoyed without me." Megan laughed. "You're kidding." I shook my head. "Nope, not kidding." In fact, I itemized it. Mum's smile cracked, her eyes narrowing. "Are you seriously trying to make us pay you back?" "No," I said, leaning forward. "I'm giving you the chance to. Because from now on, anything you want from me, money, help, favours, comes with an invoice." Silence, thick and awkward. Dad sat up straighter. "You need to drop the attitude. We're family." I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Family," I repeated. "The same family that made plans without me, spent my money and laughed about it afterward." Megan rolled her eyes so hard I thought she might sprain something. "Oh my God, no one made you pay for anything." And that was it. The final flick of the match. I stood up, pulled another sheet of paper from my pocket, and unfolded it carefully. "You're right," I said. "No one made me. Let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we?" I pointed at Megan first. I wasn't made to cover your rent for 2 years, or your car repairs, or your semester of nursing school you dropped halfway through. I turned to Mum. I wasn't made to pay off your back taxes when the county came knocking, or fund your birthday cruise because Dad forgot. I turned to Dad. I wasn't made to cover the mortgage payments you missed, because you didn't feel like dealing with paperwork. Dad's face was dark red now, the kind of angry red that said he felt attacked, not that I had been hurt. I took a breath and dropped the second bombshell. And that's just the money I gave freely, I said. Last week, I found out someone used my name to open a credit card. Mom stiffened. Megan froze. I kept going, calm, steady. The new iPhone? The spa day Megan posted about? They weren't gifts. They were charges. On a card opened under my name. Megan's face drained of colour. That wasn't. I cut her off. The credit company gave me the billing address tied to the card. I looked Mum dead in the eye. It's this house. Dad leaned forward. You're accusing your own family? I shrugged. Not accusing. Reporting. Already filed the claim. It's being investigated as identity theft. Megan shot up from the couch. You wouldn't dare press charges. I met her glare without flinching. Try me. The room exploded after that. Megan screamed about how I was ruining her life. Dad yelled about loyalty and family values. Mum cried into the couch cushions, painting herself the victim in record time. I didn't raise my voice once. I just stood there while they crumbled. And then, out of nowhere, a voice spoke up. Quiet, steady. Luke, my cousin Luke. Always quiet at family gatherings. Always on the sidelines. I'll pay my share, he said, standing awkwardly. For the dinner. It's only fair. Everyone turned to stare at him like he'd grown a second head. Luke swallowed hard. And, I'm sorry, man. They planned it. The reunion. They joked about not telling you. Said it'd be easier without you there. He looked ashamed. Like he wished he could disappear. For the first time all night, I smiled. A real smile. Thanks, Luke, I said. I turned to Mom, Dad, Megan, the whole sorry lot of them. You took me for granted for years, I said. You thought I'd always come back, always bail you out, always forgive and forget. I shook my head. You were wrong. And then I left. Walked out the door without a single look back. The next morning at 8:17 am, my phone rang. Private number. I picked up, heart hammering for the first time all night. Hi, this is Officer Ramirez from the local precinct, a calm voice said. We're following up on an identity theft report tied to your name. Your family residence was listed. We'll be visiting the property today for statements. I didn't say anything for a second. Just let the weight of it settle. Then I said, Do you need me there? No, sir. You've done your part. We'll take it from here. I hung up and sat back. No rage. No tears. No second guessing. For the first time in my life, someone else was speaking for me. And they couldn't gaslight the police. The cops didn't exactly keep things quiet. According to Mum's furious voicemail, they showed up the same morning. 2 officers, 1 male, 1 female, knocked politely, flashed badges, asked to speak to everyone inside. Mum tried the whole, we're a good family routine. Dad barked about misunderstandings. Megan tried to leave halfway through, said she had work. The officers asked her to sit back down. She cracked in less than 5 minutes. It wasn't fraud, Megan stammered, loud enough that the neighbours probably heard. He always helps me. I thought he wouldn't care. The officers asked to see her phone. She hesitated. They insisted. Turns out, Megan wasn't just sloppy, she was stupid. Texts, screenshots, messages to her friends, use my bro's info for the spa day, he's such a pushover. He won't even notice El Mao. Premeditated, documented. By that afternoon, a detective had called me directly. We have enough evidence to move forward with charges, he said. Would you like to proceed? I asked for a day to think about it. Not because I was conflicted. Not because I doubted myself. Because after all the years I spent forgiving them without an apology, they didn't deserve my instant decision either. That night, my phone exploded. 30 missed calls. 45 text messages. Voicemails from every member of the guilt parade. Mom, you're destroying the family. Dad, be a man and handle this privately. Megan, you're going to cost me my job. My apartment. You're seriously doing this to your sister. Funny. They never worried about destroying me. The next day, I called the detective back. I'm not pressing formal charges yet, I said. But I want everything on record. If she so much as breathes near my name again, I'll move forward, he agreed. It was done. Not forgiven, not forgotten, just done. Mum wasn't finished, though. She called me again 2 days later. Voice softer now, fake sweet, like silk over broken glass. If you really want to fix things, she said, come to the house. We'll talk. Against my better judgment, I went. Not because I wanted to forgive them, but because part of me needed to see it to close the door properly. When I walked in, it was the same old setup. Megan on the couch, looking pitiful under a blanket like she was the real victim. Mum fussing with the curtains. Dad pretending to be uninterested, but glaring at me over his glasses. We just want to heal, Mum said, clasping her hands together like a bad actress. We? I asked, raising an eyebrow. You're hurt, she said. We get it. But going to the police... I didn't go to the police, I interrupted. I reported fraud. They came on their own. Megan's voice cracked. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. You didn't think I'd choose myself, I corrected. Mum reached out to touch my hand. Let's just make it go away. We'll pay back the money. I laughed. Short, sharp. Funny how you didn't offer that before they showed up with badges. Dad finally spoke up. You think this makes you better than us? I looked him straight in the eye. No, I said. It just makes me free. Then I left. This time for good. 2 weeks later, the detective called again. A payment came through, he said. Anonymous, but traced back to a joint account belonging to your parents. They paid off the charges. He paused. Do you want to press charges anyway? I didn't even have to think about it. No, I said. Let them stew. That's worse. I moved out of state 3 weeks later. Small town, quiet streets. Neighbours who smile without sizing you up for weaknesses. I rented a little apartment. Set up my IKEA furniture. Started over. No more family group chats blowing up my phone. No more birthdays where I wasn't really invited. No more handing over pieces of myself like they were scraps. I bought groceries I liked. Went for walks after work. Slept like I hadn't slept in 10 years. A month later, a letter showed up. No return address. Inside, a check. And a short note, written in careful block letters, I don't expect you to forgive me. But thank you for doing what I never had the courage to. Luke. The check was for half the cost of the DeLuca's dinner. I smiled. He didn't owe me anything, but he understood. That was enough. As for the rest of them, I haven't heard a word. Not for Thanksgiving. Not for Christmas. Not even when Dad had minor surgery a few months later. I only found out because a distant cousin posted it on Facebook. And you know what? Good. Let them sit in the silence they built. Let them explain to each other why the guy who used to pay all their bills vanished without a fight. The last time anyone recognized me, it was by accident. At the checkout line at a hardware store, a woman from my old town spotted me. Hey, didn't you used to be Megan's brother? I smiled. Not anymore, I said. And just like that, No shame, no guilt, no looking back. They thought I'd always come back, that I needed their scraps of love, that guilt would tie me to them forever. They were wrong. I don't need family dinners where I'm invisible until the check comes. I don't need calls that start with "How are you?" and end with Venmo requests. I don't need their cheap apologies wrapped in demands for more sacrifices. I wake up now and breathe air that belongs only to me. I work, one sleep, I laugh. I don't flinch when the phone rings. I don't explain myself anymore. I don't shrink to fit their version of love. I'm not the fixer, not the wallet, not the crutch. I'm just me, and for the first time in my entire life, that's more than enough.